Ladies and gentlemen, it's another Johnny Vedmore read through with me, Johnny Vedmore. I'm doing the second in the Nicole Junkermann pieces. I wrote this a month after the first one. If you've not bothered to see the first one, we'll have a look at where you can find it now. But the first article was my first step properly into the Epstein case. I'd been researching her for about 2 years beforehand and keeping my eye on her, and I was scared. I was scared. She's a powerful woman. Who wouldn't be scared of a powerful woman? One of the most powerful women I think I've ever investigated in my life, and completely unknown to most people. And I avoided it. I wondered, should I not? Maybe I should, maybe I should. I'll just put it off and do this article first, or do this investigation that's less. And then eventually it became clear that the Epstein case was taken over, and this was going to be fruity. And then I looked online and discovered, boom, there she is, part of the NHS Health Tech Advisory Board. And I was like angered, incensed. How dare you enter into our socialist health system that is going to be destroyed by COVID anyway, I said. And I went and I investigated Nicole Junkermann. And I wrote this, the first article, which maybe you've read the read through, heard the read through, maybe you've read it. Maybe you've just heard about it somewhere else or heard me talk about it somewhere. But it was a very interesting piece that showed she was an extremely powerful woman, Countess Ferdinando Bracetti Peretti, now married to the AP oil baron Ferdinando Bracetti Peretti, who him and his brother Ugo run the company now. It's a big company too, and it was from a very historic family. Their mother was the first female general in Italian history. That's how high up they are in the old Italian family, Knights of Malta. So obviously she's got power. She was involved in FIFA corruption, ended up with having an affair with the married head of Adidas, who later on died of leukemia or cancer. His sister is one of the ones on Seinfeld. It was his cousin. Well, it's one of the two. They've all got these weird links all over the place. But we'll get on to that one another time, won't we? We'll get on to that one on the next one, on Nicole Junkermann 3.0 model on Mossad. That's the next read through we're going to do, and that's the next one I'm going to bring to you in audio version. Because that's what this is, isn't it? We're doing audio versions of it, but also you could come watch it on YouTube, and that's probably where it's probably going to be digested most. And Rockfin and Rumble, I would hope that you go to the independent platforms, however independent they are nowadays. Who knows? Soon everything becomes corrupt in the end, which is kind of what we're looking at with our whole system, isn't it? So exciting. The second Nicole Junkermann piece. It was July 2019. I had printed an article that kept me awake all night, and the backlash was significant straight away. I knew that I was in trouble. I knew I also hadn't found something that really bothered me, and I don't think I was a good enough investigator to find it out then. I don't think without a bit of luck, I would never have got to this article. Just that's as simple as it is. Without the luck, without just a little something happening, the universe working out, then I wouldn't have got there. But there's also an element to it that makes me think, well, maybe I didn't. Maybe this information was fed to me so that I didn't bother the UK police. I know that sounds a little bit funny, but I had a source. And that source said he read my first Junkermann article, which isn't an unlikely thing. It got round the place. And he told me that he was there that night, and then told me a load of information that only somebody who was there that night could know. and that was really interesting. And I had to be really careful because there was only a certain number of people who were there that night. Maids, cooks. It wasn't a big party happening. It wasn't a big party, and we'll get into what was actually happening. But I think the best place to start is sharing the screen. I'll show you where you can find it. Most of you probably already know where you can find my work, but we'll go on to Google Earth and I'll show you where Jeffrey Epstein and Nicole Junkermann went in 2002 between August the 31st, returning the 2nd of September, staying one full day at a very interesting place. So let's do it. I love this. I love this little bit. Ooh. I go up into the corner of the screen, disappear, and you are here on JohnnyVedmore.com. Look, there she is, Nicole Junkermann, right in front of us. Nicole Junkermann 1.0, the Epstein associate nobody's talking about, and nobody was talking about her, and still, even now, it's hard to get people talking about her. If her name comes up in one of these lists, one of these famous lists that gets everybody riled up every few months, well, it's likely going to be that her name is going to be redacted by a massive amount of lawyers and suits and all sorts, because she's like invested in everything from SpaceX to Revolut. She's got money, 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 and she knows how to use it. She knows how to use it. This girl knows how to use it. And of course, you can find a lot of the links to the articles here at johnnyvedmore.com. This is my place, which is my I suppose you could say primary website, where you can find links to all of these the different things I put out as I put them out. And there's a drop down menu up in the corner. Allows you to support me if you can do. I need your help now more than ever. Please help me get to the point where I can do this. And I'm not a lazy person. Look at the amount of work I put out. Honestly, your support means I can do this consistently on a full-time basis, because at the moment I have to look for some sort of work on the side, and I don't want to compromise anything. That includes, I don't want to end up working for people who don't let me say the truth. And I would prefer to be as independent as possible, at least have my own ability to be independent whenever I need to be, because it is vital for the type of journalism I do. I don't do the journalism most people do. I do journalism that needs to be done. So you can see the featured articles here. You've got the Schwab series up top there, Non-Governmental Octopus, the Pottinger series below, the Welcome Five articles. You got Pablo Miller, the Nicole Junkermann articles, David Shaw and the Rise of Jeff Bezos, Event 201 to Cyberpolygon. I co-wrote that with Whitney Webb. The Father, the Son, and the Mencius Mole Bug. That one caused me real significant trouble in my last relationship. Same person. Dark Trace and Cyber Reason. Theresa May's Father. That was one of my first biggest articles. The Genetics of Bill Gates go back in Bill Gates' history to the 1300s, maybe even the 1200s. Kirby Your Enthusiasm, about Kirby Summers, the Epstein researcher who isn't all she seems to be. Edelman PR, the right-hand man of Klaus Schwab. Porton Down's Ideological Cloud, going back through the history of Porton Down and a lot of the experimenting on human beings in the UK especially. Who is Ireland's Barbara Hewson, an extremely interesting article. Daniel Korski, which is the fourth of the Junkermann pieces, and he's going for Mayor of London. And you got Tim Westwood about my experience working in the Hilton Hotel as a night porter once upon a time. A naughty night porter, I have to say. I was a naughty boy. And Tim Westwood staying and witnessing things that were obviously suggest that he was doing the same as Epstein was doing, bringing back very young girls and giving them off to people. But he wasn't, of course. Tim Westwood is no Jeffrey Epstein, that's for sure. And then you got you got links to other shows there that I do. So of course I do the NEWSPASTE podcast, do News Theory, which is just starting off. I'm only doing News Theory whenever I feel it needs to be done. So I did the one, The Great Reset is a conspiracy theory, and then Palestine is a conspiracy theory. These ones are very important for getting a point across about conspiracy theory. So News Theory is about that. NEWSPASTE is fun. That will be every now and again. I'm thinking about taking it live so that I'm interacting with you as we're going through the news in a way that's really fun and really epically over the top, because I really do love being silly in NEWSPASTE. And Newshound goes through the individual actual source material in each article and some other newspaper archives and subjects in the newspaper archives. Audit everything, of course, me traipsing around the streets of Cardiff and other places, including Santiago and other places, and auditing police, but basically auditing everybody and everything, and seeing what's going on in the world. And of course, you can then go to newspaste.com, which is my my other endeavor. I'm hoping to get more people involved in NewsPaste over time, and this is an important place as well, because I mean, straight away you can see you can support me via Patreon and support me via buy me a coffee. Those two things are really important to me, because they keep me going at the moment. I don't care how you support me at the moment. Anything that can be done can be done. There's a support part there that leads you in different ways as well. Here you can search NewsPaste. Of course, you have the searching for Stanley videos ready to go, the Pottinger series ready to go, Pottinger read-throughs. You don't have to read them, you just have to listen. Most recent podcast there with Mel K. Other ways to donate, more searching for Stanley. I mean, all of this has been out the past 2 months' work, except for the articles themselves. But a lot of this article itself this was my last one on UK column, Pablo Miller. These are my Schwab series. Of course, you've got links to so NewsPaste is really important. Here's the Junkermann read through. It allows me to really showcase a lot of my work, but also get to things like this, which is training, the Davos slide training. So you can go through a lot of this, and then NewsPaste, of course, the Pottinger News Hounds and stories, the Epstein 101 series. Each one of these articles I adapted from my research notes for helping with One Nation Under Blackmail when I was researching and writing parts of that line for line. And then the Black Hand series, really important series going back to London gangsters, people like the Craze and stuff, who took over nightclubs from these poor ladies who all died within a year and a half of really strange causes. This one didn't die from the overdose she took, and didn't die from the strangulation of the lamp cord that got accidentally wrapped round her neck. No, she died because slightly of column A and slightly of column B. It was ridiculous. And she died in a gas after being found in a gas-filled flat. Esmeralda's barn later got bought out by the Craze, and this man here, Horace Dibbin, who is really the guy who seeded the satanic panic into the world in a proper way, in a more cartoon way. He was he was the guy, the man in the mask parties, the satanic sex parties, all Horace Dibbin. He invented them all, and he did it with his wife, Mariella Novotny. She was smuggled out of JFK's bedchamber by the FBI, smuggled out of the country by CIA and FBI, was obviously compromised. Mariella Novotny was one of the most interesting people, all of those involved in the Profumo affair that led to the downfall of the British government a few years after that. And this is the original Jeffrey Epstein here. George Huntington Hartford II, who's the AMP grocery heir, and was interesting. He was exactly the same. He owned a sexy island called Paradise Island, was originally Hog Island. He threw sex parties. He went to Horace Dibbin's sex parties. He had houses in Palm Beach. He had houses in New York. He had houses in London, just like Jeffrey Epstein did exactly the same thing. Sent people out on the streets to pick up teenage girls because he liked them, as he said, prime. Same age range as Jeffrey Epstein. He is Jeffrey Epstein in the past. Also had intelligence links. His brother-in-law was Ivor Bryce, who helped write James Bond, and was one of the only British members of the OSS when it first got started. Really interesting guy. So NewsPaste is really important. Stanley Setti murders, that's a really interesting murder mystery. Really interesting, really fun. I enjoyed writing that one, and you can contact me at the bottom of the page. Now, I don't normally go through all of NewsPaste, but it's important to know there's all different types of way to get in contact with me. And here we go. Look, we're in Earth. Where we're going. Where do you think we're going? What do you think I'm going to type in? Shall I type something in? I think I should type something in. What shall I type in, people? Anybody guess? Not Lavoisier. No, no, no. We'll do that in a little bit. We'll do that in a little bit, folks. We'll do that. No, we're going to type in something else. We're going to say Tarpon Island. Do you know where Tarpon Island is? There you go, flying through the air, going to Jeffrey Epstein's house. Ladies and gentlemen, we start here today on this read through. We start at Jeffrey Epstein's El Brillo Way mansion, just by here. Now, I believe it's this one. It's by here. It was by here, but now it's gone. It's been replaced. It's one of these by here. Very nice house. The guy who knocked it down and replaced it lived on this island, Tarpon Island. Glazier, I think his name is Todd Michael Glazer. He's into real estate all around the place. Looks like a young Harvey Weinstein. And of course, he buys this place, knocks it down, and the original house had been designed and built by John Volk, the architect, who originally designed George Huntington Hartford II's Paradise Island. He had him come out, and so the similarities again between Epstein and this original Epstein I talk about is very interesting. And of course, over here, Stanley Pottinger's house, where Matthew Pottinger, Deputy National Security Advisor under Trump and a CFR member and many other things, the guy who eats information as the Chinese are raiding his house when he's in China, when he's based in China. Amazing, amazing stories. Pottinger's over here. So he's one of Epstein's victims' lawyers later on, and he moved in 1990. Jeffrey Epstein moved in 1990. Literally, they're 500 meters apart as the crow flies. I love it. But we're not stopping here. You know, this is where Jeffrey Epstein hung out. That was his house of hell. And we're going to a few places. I'm going to go to a couple of places, make this a bit interesting, because remember, we're talking about jet setters. We're talking about the plane. And we're going to go to Le Bourget. Le Bourget en Paris, mon ami. Oui, je parle un petit peu de français parce que j'habite à Lyon pour une année, mais c'était longtemps avant. So I lived in Lyon for under a year, maybe 15 years ago now. So I still know a little bit of French. I can still manage a little bit of French because I really threw myself into it. Le Bourget on Paris. Here we go. And where are we going? We're just going north of this, aren't we? That's what we're going to do. Just raise up a little bit north. Because this is where, when Jeffrey Epstein was leaving Paris, he liked to leave Paris from. And the story begins here. Yes, it does. Begins on the 31st of August, 2002, in Aéroport de Paris-Le Bourget, which is in Le Nord de Paris, the north of Paris, I believe. Yeah. And this is where Epstein often flew out. Now, personally, I think this was an interesting route. This was his route when he met the child trafficking recruiter, Jean-Luc Brunel. Afterwards, he would fly out here. He would fly to various places, but there was this pattern as he emerging, where he would fly up to Canada and then fly back down. And we'll talk about that in a live over the next couple of days. It might already be out by the time this gets onto YouTube. It's going to go out to patrons first, of course. And Le Bourget, on the 31st of August 2002, is where Jeffrey Epstein flew. And where did he fly to? He took his airplane and he flew over to Britain. And over here is Britain. You see Cardiff there? Right there. That's me. I'm right there in Cardiff. That's where I am. And he flew with one passenger. And as everybody knows, I explained in the last one, that's how I discovered Nicole Junkermann, because it was very rare for Jeffrey Epstein to ride without his entourage, without Ghislaine Maxwell, without anybody else, just him and another person. That was super rare. And if you're a spy, imagine if you're working in espionage, what do you want? if you're doing espionage with someone else. You want as little people around as possible. For some reason, Maxwell didn't always follow him everywhere. She had her own gigs going on. People say like, oh, like act like he was all of her money, but she was not. She was a savvy lady. She had money all around the place. She could afford all of this. So from Le Bourget, they flew, and they flew to Birmingham Airport. Yes. Why wouldn't you fly to Birmingham Airport? Such a beautiful place. Birmingham. Oh, that didn't work out well, did it? Um, I just there you go. So we're gonna go Birmingham Airport, and you see in the blurry screen, you see Birmingham Airport. Now, Birmingham Airport's right in the center of the UK. So when investigating this and when trying to find this, I was like, oh my God. He's flown to Birmingham Airport. It might have been to save money. It might have been because big events were going on that day. It might have been for any number of reasons. And you see Birmingham in the UK. UK is very condensed. It's this area is 4 times smaller than France is. I think that's right. I know they don't make it look like it, but it bloody well is true. Um, Maybe it's just 2 times, but anyway, whatever. It's got the same number of people in, and it's a lot more condensed. And so you've got these central masses of Birmingham, Sheffield, and Manchester. I always see Sheffield as being a bit north of Manchester. I can't help it. It always goes into my mind. I know. I mean, Manx. Some of my favorite people come from up north. An interesting genetic mix because if I cut off, like where I'm waving the mouse over here, this area is genetically Northern French. These are the conqueror invaders, and then all up here, around here, and down here, and up in Scotland, there's loads of different tribes that are really unique, and they don't even know they're different tribes. They just think they're English or Scottish or etc. But they're actually a distinct genetic heliotype that you can follow. Right. So, ignoring that aside, when I got to this and I was trying to work out where they're going, if they go to Birmingham Airport, that means they could have gone anywhere in the UK. It was no clue at all. If they'd gone to London, at least I would have known they probably were intending to go to London. But who knows what they intended to do if they go to Birmingham? But that might even be better because that might say to me, well, maybe they'd gone to Birmingham for a reason that it's by Birmingham. And it took a while, but eventually the answer became clear. The answer became very clear. One day, somebody phoned me. They emailed me, and I gave them my phone number, and we talked on the phone straight away. And it was a very interesting call because he gave me some information and only people who were there that night would know. And it confirmed that he was probably there that night. And so I took all the information down and I wrote this article. And let's show you. I'm looking up close because I have no idea where my glasses are. Fox coat. God damn it. And also the keyboard I use is a portable one I can pick up and go and take somewhere else, but it means it's a bit smaller, so it's hard. Here we go. Here we go. Right. So let's not go in there quickly. Oh my God. Look how quickly they wanted us to go into Foxcoat House. Let me show you something. Let me show you something. Let's come out a bit, yeah? Let's come out. It's such an interesting place, this. So there you go. You see the south of Birmingham. So that's where Birmingham Airport is. And that's Foxcoat House. That's where they would go. From Birmingham Airport, from there, they would fly by Bristow's helicopter across to the helipad at Northcote House. Now, likelihood when you're being flown out by helicopter to such a short space, if you're having a helicopter, you're probably going to have a helicopter ride, little ride, and there's a lot to see if you were to go over the helicopters around here. This is just, I mean, this is just across the way. It's hard because if things aren't loading up here for whatever reason. But this is just across the way from Oxford over here in Oxfordshire and Chipping Norton and all of the other extremely rich places that exist over here. And so where are we here? Right, you go. See, everything's catching up with it now. Broughton, Drayton, ooh, Banbury, which is of course, and then you got the Malton places. Oh, again, Middleton. No, oh, Malton's down in the south. Drayton, you've got some. This is all. These are all very wealthy places. These are all very wealthy places, and one of the wealthy places that is nearby, of course, is the home of Shakespeare, who actually lived just outside originally, but of course Stratford upon Avon, where straight away you see Shakespeare popping up. So this is it's a beautiful area. Anybody who's been here knows North Warwickshire is one of the most beautiful areas you can possibly imagine in Britain. It's gorgeous. And right there you go. Right there is Foxcote House. And it's out in the middle of nowhere. You don't realize how out in the middle of nowhere it is. Look at all the fields around. Now, if you were a rich person and you didn't want anyone near you and you didn't want anybody to be able to go past you, yeah, what would you do? You would buy up all the land, wouldn't you? Now, question why Bill Gates and people like that buy up all of the land. Do they do it just for themselves or do they do it to keep their buddies out of the way too? So, there's a lot of people who live around this area, and we'll see that within the article. But this is where they went. They landed in a helicopter at Foxcote House. And you'll see there's multiple different parts of the house. There's the old mansion house, which isn't slept in that much. The actual Foxcote house itself, I'm not sure if it's that. And there's like a workplace out the back, and it's supposed to be a hunting lodge, hunting retreat. But you can sense there's probably something else going on here too. There's probably something else, and it's owned by none other than Les Wexner. So here we go. It is time, my friends. Oh, the eyes that stare at us. The eyes. Thank you for joining me on this. This is a read through. I'm going to take a little drink, maybe a little smoky beforehand. See if I can stop the YouTube algorithm seeing it. I lifted up the cup. Oh my God. There is steam coming from the cup. See? But yeah. So YouTube algorithms don't like you smoking. Here we go. Again, this is on newspaste.com now. You can find it probably in a couple other places, but here is an important site for me. Epstein, Junkermann, 1st of September 2002, The Secret Senators and the Wexner War in Iraq. By me, Jody Vedmore. While many of the talented people on the independent news scene were uncovering new information about the glamorous Nicole Junkermann, I was focused on the one question that remained unanswered from my initial article. What were Jeffrey Epstein and Nicole Junkermann doing in the United Kingdom from landing on August the 31st, 2002 until leaving on September the 2nd? Let me just line this up so I can read it properly. Make that a bit smaller. There were so many clues to the whereabouts of Epstein and Junkermann from a very limited amount of information. They'd flown on Epstein's private jet from Paris Le Bourget Airport, and they had chosen to land at Birmingham Airport. So the first question was, why Birmingham? Britain is littered with viable airports for a billionaire to land his swanky jet. Birmingham in 2002 was not renowned for being a hangout of the glamorous and often seedy billionaires of the world. I sifted through thousands of old archive websites trying to locate any blip on the radar. Maybe I'd uncover some little story in a local newspaper reporting a misplaced boast from a talkative cohort, but the hunt was fruitless. I eventually found out that I was never going to discover anything related to the night in question in the press. This was a very secret meeting. I had succeeded in narrowing down the search, which proved to be correct, but without something truly miraculous happening, I felt that I was doomed to never know the answer. I put a tweet out saying that I was still looking for Epstein and Junkermann's location on the 1st of September 2002, but in reality, I was losing hope. I had done my best to get the question out into the public arena. If the answer was to be found, then the universe would have to provide it, and on this occasion, the telephone was the universe's preferred method of communication. From this point on, I must protect my sources, so I'm going to start by giving you a basic roundup of the events of that weekend. Then we can go into each of the details I was told and any evidence corroborating the story. The slightly polished dramatization. Jeffrey Epstein and Nicole Junkermann landed at Birmingham Airport, located southeast of the United Kingdom's second biggest city, on the afternoon of Saturday, August 31st, 2002. They were met by prearranged helicopter pilot, most likely a representative of Bristow Group. They were then flown 25 miles south to a secluded country house in the stunningly beautiful Warwickshire countryside. If they were to fly another 20 miles southeast, then they'd have seen Blenheim Palace, resident of the Dukes of Marlborough, all of them. And en route, they'd fly over Chipping Norton. The surrounding areas are where some of the most famous of the British-based elites live. Ex-Prime Minister David Cameron go riding with Murdoch executive Rebecca Brooks in the fields below. Elizabeth Murdoch, second-born daughter of Rupert Murdoch, has a grand residence nearby, along with Ben Kingsley, Patrick Stewart, Jeremy Clarkson, and of course, Princess Anne is just around the corner. Always just around the corner. They would have even been able to see the church where Theresa May's father used to give his sermons as Vicar of Enstone and Haythrop. Here on the borderlands of Oxfordshire, Gloucestershire, and Warwickshire, they were in amongst the establishment elite. There you go. There's the old house. They landed at a relatively recently installed helipad near the highest point in Warwickshire County. They were in Ilmington, which was one of the seats of the Canning family until the death of Robert Canning in 1848. Situated on the northeastern cusp of the scenic Cotswolds, Grade 2 listed building where they were staying is Foxcote House, and was purchased by Leslie and Abigail Wexner in 1997. The two best rooms in the 11-bedroom house were already taken by more important people, so they would have to settle for less grandiose quarters. But they were still nice. Sunday, the 1st of September 2002, was the perfect weather for such an occasion, and the small group spent the day hunting. Later on that night, Jeffrey Epstein walked into the main house to greet the waiting senators, with a girl on each arm. On his right arm was the dazzlingly beautiful brunette, and on his left arm was the stunning Nicole Junkermann. The majority of the security men were moonlighting British police, and the two guests who were the center of attention were both sitting United States senators. This very small gathering wasn't all fun and games. America was on the brink of war. In just over a week's time, it was going to be the first anniversary of the 9/11 attacks. And exactly 1 month later, Joint Resolution 114 was voted on by those same senators. The vote to go to war with Iraq based on a dodgy dossier of exaggerated and manipulated information. I'm not sure if I put in this. I'm gonna just quickly say something else happened. 2 days afterwards, Hillary Clinton was introducing the Amber Alert bill about trafficking children, against trafficking warning system for trafficking children in North America. That was being introduced 2 days after these senators were meeting Jeffrey Epstein. I find that interesting, noteworthy, seeing as what part of his job was. Who originally invited the senators to the English hunting retreat is unclear, but this was the last chance for them to have such a private meeting, as the following Tuesday the senators returned to the Senate after their summer recess. On Sunday evening, the senators spent some time panicking about the lack of internet access and their inability to access their emails. They were meant to be in constant communication with their people in Washington. There was no wireless internet at Foxcote House at this point in history, just a classic dial-up modem. They were only able to access their email accounts via the solitary computer in the house. That computer was in an office near the kitchens, but the internet wasn't working. They had to call out an IT specialist late on a Sunday night to get their internet up and running, and after the problem was solved and the emails were retrieved, the night continued on as planned. The following day, on Monday, September the 2nd, 2002, Junkermann and Epstein were flown back to Birmingham Airport by helicopter, where they soon returned to Paris. Nicole and Junkermann went their separate ways. The next day, Epstein flew from Paris with Jean-Luc Brunel, Sarah Kellin, and Cindy Lopez. I think everybody knows poor Cindy Lopez. There's a lot to be said. To be honest, with all of those people, like I was saying, I think Jean-Luc Brunel, there was an operation part, there was the trafficking part, and then there was the back home part, and I think there was 3 different countries were involved in that. I'll talk about that another time. Sarah Kellin, extremely interesting. Um, she was disowned by her family for taking bikini shots of herself when she was about 17, and ended up finding a job with Jeffrey Epstein randomly, and then boom, that's it. She was stuck in there, and her family had disowned her because they were Jehovah's. So she was left with no one, and then she was writing back to her parents that she was really worried about what was going on. So I don't think that a load of the named victims made her the only girl there who was, somehow responsible for it all. But there was a lot of girls there who weren't responsible for it all. So I don't understand that. Information breakdown. The account above is what you can extrapolate, or what I can extrapolate, from the information which I received. It was now a matter of verifying the information given and starting to hunt for the unnamed US senators. Here's the reported details below. The helicopter firm used was Bristow's. The meeting was held at Foxcote House, Warwickshire. 2 United States senators were present. Leslie Wexner and Abigail Wexner may not have been present. All the talk was about the invasion of Iraq. It was a supposed hunting trip. Epstein walked into the main house on Sunday with a woman on each arm. The brunette was not identified, but the blonde was identified as Nicole Junkermann. The internet issue was a major concern. An outside IT specialist was brought in late Sunday night. The majority of the security were moonlighting British cops. Firstly, the helicopter firm Bristow's does fly out of Birmingham Airport. Also, Foxcote House is owned by the Wexner family, with Wexner's wife Abigail being named the official UK Company House records as director of the hunting business, as the Telegraph reported in 2015. Mr. Wexner has largely succeeded in keeping his ownership of Foxcote out of the public eye, despite the fact that he bought the estate 18 years ago for about £3 million. He bought it off the head of Boots, the famous, I suppose you could say, pharmaceutical shop brand, but they stock a lot. High street name, though. But I could not find a public record advertising the presence of US senators in the locality near those dates. This visit could well have been considered a private one for all involved. 2 days later, on September the 3rd, 2002, the United States Senate continued its 107th Congress. The senators and security. I went from trying to find out where two people were located on the 1st of September 2002 to attempting to identify the whereabouts of 100 sitting senators on that same day. The Wexners could not be identified as present, so the senators seem to have been meeting with Epstein directly. That seriously narrows down the candidates. I still looked at each senator individually. Joe Biden was at a rally on August the 31st, and on September the 3rd, 2002, the Baltimore Sun reported Joseph Biden Sr., 86, the father of Delaware Senator Joseph R. Biden Jr., died early yesterday at his son's home in suburban Wilmington, Delaware. He had been in failing health in recent weeks. It seemed Biden was the first to be scratched off the list. Jean Carnahan had been shooting that weekend, as her website advertised. Senator Carnahan participated in annual fish, fry, and clay pigeon shoot in Missouri on August 30th, 2002. Banker John Corzine of New Jersey was linked later on with Wexner via support for Hillel. Corzine's then ally and fellow New Jersey Democrat Robert G. Torricelli was under the microscope for corruption allegations. I went through the 100 senators, but by the end there were too many slippery fish in this pond for me to go it alone. I was able to locate Hillary Clinton's whereabouts and then Pete Domenici, but I always knew who my number one suspect was, so I was planning to save him for last. When I first found out the location of Epstein and Junkermann, I assumed that at least one of the Wexners would have been present. That left all possibilities to the identity of the senators open, as Abigail supported a wide selection of Democrats and Leslie nearly always backed various Republicans. But Epstein was never interested in supporting little candidates. He saw himself as a kingmaker of sorts. His notable support of Bill Clinton had seen his influence grow, and I believe that he craved more of the same. He craved carving more of the same. There were only two sitting senators in this period who we know Epstein was in personal contact with. Ted Kennedy and John Kerry were both listed in Epstein's Little Black Book. And at this time in American political history, everyone was talking about Senator John Kerry challenging George Bush in the 2004 presidential elections. Kerry was also still openly receiving financial support from Jeffrey Epstein, with several donations being recorded between 1991 and 2002. John Kerry is also famous for his love of hunting, a hobby the Massachusetts politician heavily advertised over the next few years before he challenged the incumbent Republican President George W. Bush. However, there are other likely suspects, including New York's Chuck Schumer and New Mexico's Jeff Bingaman, who both received public funding from Epstein. The information on the security detail I found very interesting. All the British security was specifically reported as either being UK police or former UK officers. In Epstein's famous Little Black Book, there is an entry for Scotland Yard. Were these officers supplied by the Met, or were they officially working for a private firm? The policemen who were present should face questions about such an event. The other security were described as like Secret Service, and if there were two US senators present, then they may well have bought a very small security detail. If this is so, there should be some form of official record of this visit somewhere in Washington, D.C. Just saying. The Wexner War on Iraq. We're getting through it now, people. We're getting through it. While Epstein and Junkermann were entertaining United States senators at Les Wexner's British hunting ground, Washington, D.C. was abuzz with activity. The start of the new political season was just beginning, and there was much to do. On September the 3rd, 2002, a freshly vacationed senators voted on the confirmation of Terrence F. McVeary of Pennsylvania to be United States District Judge. The Amber Alert Bill was introduced and passed. It was also the beginning of preparation towards the Iraq War before it had even been voted on by the Senate. Max Baucus, who was then chairman of the Committee on Finance, put out a press release on the 3rd of September entitled Baucus schedules a markup of a substitute for HR 5063 Armed Forces Tax Fairness Act of 2002. This was the first bill to prepare for the Iraq War. It gave tax incentives to US troops so as to make war pay. Only one sitting Republican member voted against the war. He was joined by one independent and only 21 Democrats. Les Wexner, Les Wexner was a major force in pushing for the war with Iraq. A document leaked in 2003 entitled Luntz-Wexner Analysis, Israeli Communications Priorities 2003, commissioned and produced by the Wexner Foundation, should be studied in universities globally as a perfect example of elite state propaganda. On its opening page, it states, the fact that Israel has remained relatively silent for the 3 months preceding the war and for the 3 weeks of the war was absolutely the correct strategy. And according to all the polling done, it worked. The paper is a quick guide to linking Israel's ongoing cooperation with the US military as a positive aspect to the Iraq war. But the paper soon descends into a propaganda aid in the defeat of any arguments defending the embattled Palestinian people. It is a must-read document for all those who enjoy anything Orwellian. In 2003, there was one reporter who was seriously ahead of the game. On the 1st of August 2003, Bob Fitrakis published an article on his freepress.org website entitled The Wexner War. In it, he says, when the Wexner analysis report was leaked, it caused a stir, but no questioning of Wexner's little explored relationships with Epstein and Fisher. Frank Lutz, sick, because it was Frank Luntz, the Republican Party pollster and spin doctor, prepared the Wexner analysis. Luntz's report essentially outlines a political PR campaign as the post-war dust settles over the Iraqi desert. Fitrakis finishes his enthralling article by stating lobbying groups like the Mega Group and government insiders like Wolfowitz and Richard Pearl are engaged in a systematic campaign to identify Israeli national security interests with the US military and security interests. The Wexner analysis merely documents these extensive, often covert campaigns that deserve public debate and democratic discourse, not secret PR campaigns. Maybe Epstein was simply lobbying the senators for his pal and probable fellow agent, Leslie Wexner. I say fellow agent. Wexner had multiple links with all sorts of American intelligence people and with Mossad. And I think, like I say, Epstein was an interlocutor. So Wexner was helping fund certain things that were good for Epstein and good for the CIA and good for Wexner. Everybody has to benefit, or the CIA doesn't get to function with the best. They let their agents make some money. You can be sure about that. They need cover, don't they? Oh, I'm just a rich man walking around. Where do you make that money? Well, I'm not going to tell you because it put lots of kids in the ground. Anyway, conclusion. Can I say that I've identified the location of Jeffrey Epstein and Nicole Junkermann on September the 1st, 2002? Probably. I have no reason to believe that my source intended to deceive me. I found the person to be somebody who wished to get this story off his proverbial chest. Many of the claims could be verified. That is all the information that I've been able to gather so far, and it seems to suggest a hidden world of influencing, warmongering, and outright control, but focused, and an out of control, but focused Israeli propaganda machine. My Junkermann article has taught me a few important things. There are thousands of people who want to reveal the truth. They're being attacked relentlessly for trying. The article had some collateral damage, and I'm sorry to the folks at Vote.com if I am really responsible for your site being cyber attacked and shut down. It was shut down, reopened to just archive. Vote.com, you can no longer add to it. It was opened up just archive. All because of the Junkermann stuff. It was bizarre. Well, it wasn't bizarre. Expected. I salute thee, fallen soldiers. The most important thing that I've learned was my specific place in investigative journalism. I am here to uncover the topsoil of an intriguing story and then leave it up to others to finish digging. So for now, I shall leave you all in the world which existed on September the 1st, 2002. I've not finished. I just require some new soil to turn, and I did. And there was motivation for that soon after. And this later on, I made a Freedom of Information request to the Metropolitan Police, to the Ministry of Defense, and to a couple other services. And I asked on September 2002, even though I spelled guard wrong, on the 1st of September 2002, Metropolitan Police supplied police to guard two sitting US senators at Foxcote House in Ilmington, North Warwickshire. What is the identity of those two? What was the identity of those two senators? Decision. The Metropolitan Police can neither confirm or deny whether the information you requested as a duty of Section 1, the Freedom of Information Act 2000, the Act, does not apply by virtue of the following exemptions: national security, international relations, law enforcement, health and safety, and personal information. So basically, it says a decision because they're two sitting US senators, that's national security, and you can't tell. So they can't tell me, because of reasons of national security, why Jeffrey Epstein, a potential CIA working for Mossad, a potential Mossad agent working with the CIA, and who knows, it's agent, why an agent was in the UK and who he was meeting. That's national security. Yes, it is national security. It's national security we should know. P.S. I must say a massive thanks to Richie Allen Show, Jason Bamas, and Ed Operman. They all saw how important the Junkermann connection was. Without their exposure and all the wonderful people who helped share the article and participate in the investigation, I'd have been very much alone right now. It is up to all of us to support the independent media. It is here that you will get the news, which in the mainstream prefer you don't. Also, Tony Goslin helped in getting out my Junkermann voice when I didn't have a voice anymore. He was massively important. Tony Goslin, good guy. PPS, a small footnote on donations of Les and Abigail Wexner. Records from federal election commissions show that Leslie and Abigail Wexner have made many donations before and after September the 1st, 2002 to Democratic and Republican political organizations, but their donations to individuals were rarer. Between the period of September the 27th, 2000 and June the 21st, 2004, they gave personal donations to 5 of the 100 senators who were sitting in September 2002. Those were Max Baucus, Mike DeWine, Trent Lott, Arlen Specter, and George Voinovich. The two closest payments to the date in question were Montana Democrat Max Baucus and Ohio Republican George Voinovich from Abigail Wexner and Les Wexner, respectively. But even more fascinating is the $5,000 donation given on the Saturday night of the event. Abigail Wexner donated the funds to the Ohio Democratic Party on August the 31st, 2002. And I think the most likely people to have been at Foxcote House is one of these guys. It's Mike DeWine, who was big in Ohio, of course, where there's a lot going on, and of course linked in with Wexner. Max DeWine and John Kerry, I think it was those two personally, but I can't complete that off. And this is the investigation board for Nicole Junkermann 3.0, which is the next article. You see that I wrote an entire investigation board, and you can see I had to, after the this article, I had a massive censorship come upon me. I had microtaskers employed to wipe me off the internet, search down my name and get rid of it. I had loads of my stuff pulled off Google's through requests from legal firms. I had them silencing my voice through a German court, and then trying to make me pay for their censorship of me, which was just completely and utterly outrageous stuff. Nicole Junkermann, outrageous. And so I wrote this next article, which we'll go through on the next read through, which is Nicole Junkermann 3.0 model on Mossad, and it goes through everything from Nick. I could find about Nicole Junkermann from 1995 to 2020, and it is lots. You see there the people involved. Robert Louis Dreyfus is that head of Adidas I was talking about. His wife, who he was cheating on Nicole Junkermann with, runs off with Philip Hildebrand, the head of BlackRock. Eventually, you see her there with Monica Seles, there with Brad Pitt, there with Paul Allen, the other head of Microsoft. There in the Vatican having a baby christened. Up there, Ehud Barak, who she was in business with, 10th Prime Minister of Israel. Down there, kissing API oil baron Ferdinando Bracetti Peretti. Down there, Sepp Blatter's nephew, Philippe Blatter, who was the head of Infront Sports Media, bought up and sold a load of rights for the FIFA World Cup. In there, we can see Cindy Lopez and Jeffrey Epstein. And down here, of course, we got Wexners and other things. So a twisted web that is weaved. And down here, Health Tech Advisory Board and Nicole Junkermann meeting Theresa May. There she is in number 10, Downing Street. And the fourth of this is this man who aims to be mayor of London, one of the mayoral candidates. Daniel Korski, who you cannot trust this man at all. You cannot trust this article. Goes through everything I could find about him. It was well ahead of anybody else, and no one saw him coming. I saw him coming a mile off. A mile off. I saw him in 2019 is when I first noticed him and really started like looking into him. And that article was from 2020. And then down here you can watch an episode of Searching for Stanley if you do choose. And again, listen. Buy me a coffee or become a patron. I need the help. I need the help. I need to keep doing this. I need to keep doing this work and keep doing read-throughs and getting this information out to people. And I'm a relentless worker. Look at my work. Contact me down at the bottom if you want to contact me down at the bottom. You can speak to me on things like X and stuff and all of that nonsense. And we have just spent our time in Foxcote House there. There you go. Foxcote House in North Warwickshire, where Epstein and Junkermann were. It's a very interesting web they weaved, isn't it? Isn't it indeed? And that article was really, it kind of, I had written the first Junkermann article, and I knew, wow, I need to know more, I need to know more, and I didn't expect it. And then it was almost like the universe provided all the pieces and ended up walking into it. And I don't know if it's, with this, always be suspicious if you get handed a story so easily. But I was looking for this story. I was putting out word that I was looking for this story, and then I found it. So I don't know which one it was. Whatever, I think I got roughly the truth. That's what happened, and those were the players involved. And there was hardly anybody. There was no big party going on in Foxcote House. It was 2 women, Jeffrey Epstein, 2 senators. Work it out. You know what happened. We all know what happened. So, there you go. That's another Johnny Vedmore read through. Support me. Retweet, share, like, subscribe, whatever. Just do it. Just do it. Keep in touch. And there will be more to come. I promise you that. More to come.
What we know is that we will end up with many more unemployed